Hello, if you have seen my summary video, please bear with me as I introduce myself and this series again. I am David Simmonds, a chartered chemical engineer who has worked on many energy projects in a number of countries. In doing so, I have supported those countries with their energy transitions. After retiring in 2013, I worked 2 years in Tanzania with VSO assisting with their livelihoods program to create new job opportunities. I have 2 grandchildren and I am now very concerned for their future with our climate change outlook, and therefore I am keen to see how my past experience can help us establish a robust and practical way forward for our next and very critical energy transition. We are all aware that energy is at the core of our social and economic well-being, and the scale of the transition to ameliorate the impact of our climate is now enormous. I do not want to trivialize the challenge, for there is no silver bullet. However, we can all be encouraged by the range of new technologies being pursued today, and from these, I think we can secure a practical way forward. Recently, the European chapter of the Gas Processors Association, a non-profit organisation, asked me to give a presentation at their recent Future Energy Conference. I would like to thank the GPA for that opportunity, and through this series of videos I would like to provide a revised and slightly longer version of my presentation, which sets the background to the challenge, briefly reviewing those new technologies and then provide some thoughts on the plan to achieve net zero. Of course, much is being written and said on this, especially as we experience events like those recently in Germany and Canada, and organisations like the UK Committee for Climate Change and the International Energy Agency are issuing comprehensive studies. Frankly though, I think these lack sufficient resilience and are overly optimistic of what can be achieved by 2050. I've been encouraged to prepare these videos by my friends and ex-colleagues, and they are now here for them and for those involved in determining our future energy policy. The main purpose of the series is to suggest a more robust way forward for our transition. I believe this should capitalise on the wide range of available technologies. Beyond setting the targets, we now need to urgently determine both the what and even more critically the how, especially as we have limited time to achieve our target. Many organisations espouse a particular way forward, leading experts to clash on ideas. I don't believe we have the luxury for this specificity and believe we need policies and regulations which can promote deployment of multiple technologies. Communication of what we need to do is even harder, and in the final video in this series I provide some ideas to more graphically share the challenge. Yes, we do need bullets, and as you will see, I believe we will need gold, silver and bronze ones to succeed. I've given this presentation on future energy a subtitle, Efficiency, Flexibility and Uncertainty. For as you will see, I believe these parameters are at the heart of the conundrum facing our transition. This first video, part 1, provides the background to the challenges, setting the scene. Starting with the nub of the problem, our dependence on fossil fuels. Until 1800, we relied on wood and peat to heat our homes and to cook. The Industrial Revolution of the 1850s was built upon the harnessing of the efficiency of coal, our first fossil fuel. Later, with the need for more flexibility, and particularly for transport, and with the successful exploitation of oil, we progressed towards our oil-centric world of the 1970s. At that time, natural gas technologies were in their infancy, but it quickly became the flexible fuel of preference for heating. And by the beginning of 2010, we entered our current gas-centric energy system. There are some exceptions like China, which has reverted to cheap coal to fuel its growing industrial base, and France, which has long focused on nuclear energy. Major transitions are being driven by price and convenience. Hopefully this chart introduces the concepts of energy flexibility and reinforcement through the multi-vector ring schematic, and we will come back to this in a later video. I won't dwell on this slide, for most of us recognise that fossil fuel use has and continues to warm our planet, and global temperatures are increasing. However, it is also appropriate to note that the outsourcing of our consumption has transferred the source of many of our emissions, particularly to China, stimulating that growth in coal usage in that country. However, the scale up of natural gas has helped us cap recent emission rates. Two excellent references for a detailed analysis on the impact of fossil fuels are Simon Pirani's book Burning Up and the Club of Rome's 2018 thesis Come On, and I do recommend both of them for you to read. So what are governments doing about this? Well, almost universally, they are addressing decarbonisation of the energy system. Except for some focus on reducing the consumption of meat, governments find it very difficult to consider policies to tackle consumer impacts, such as increasing the cost of air travel. Our policy responses are focused on energy supply rather than the more socially challenged consumption. History is not on our side as governments move forward with their climate policy, as they have to balance a wide variety of societal needs and demands. Some of the issues include the challenges with implementing carbon offsetting measures, and many of their green initiatives have stalled. Stakeholders have widely different views on the merits of future options, while prior experience highlights the risk from getting things wrong, such as the UK's Grenfell Tower disaster following inadequate fire testing of insulation materials, and the mis-selling of diesel cars is another case. Today, post-COVID, funding is limited, though COVID has demonstrated how technology can assist us in solving major challenges. This chart plots our various energy vectors. It considers four main sources of energy: fossil fuels, renewables, nuclear, and biomass. We use these resources either directly or indirectly, with approximately 20% utilized to produce electricity, which has widespread application and use. The chart also shows some future vectors, including hydrogen and ammonia, which potentially can provide opportunity to continue transport and market energy around the globe. We must not forget that we also use fossil fuels for a number of non-energy purposes. Further today, renewables only meet about 7% of our total energy demand. Many markets depend on transporting energy long distances from its source. For example, while it is not energy efficient, it is economically viable to liquefy and transport natural gas from resources in the Middle East to Europe and to the Far East. So let us now turn to a simple multi-vector, multi-use energy system model, where all the energy use is considered within this blue blob. The overall drivers for our system are demand, energy resources, physical assets, prices, economics, fiscal policy, and consumer acceptance. As I have mentioned, consumers optimize their energy needs around price and convenience. However, our energy regulators are looking more at efficiency and flexibility. Maximizing efficiency ensures we optimize utilization of our energy resources, which in turn reduces cost to consumer. However, consumers are also willing to pay a premium to have energy in a manner and at a time which suits their needs. For example, to heat our homes on the coldest days, fly long distances, or run equipment off grid. They are happy to pay a price or a premium for flexibility. The unfortunate byproduct of this consumption is unabated carbon dioxide emissions. At the heart of the system model lays the need for national and international regulation and collaboration. I would like to quickly layer on the different energy vectors and the sectors to which they are supplied to our model. Once produced, electricity is our most efficient medium, and today it is generated from multiple energy vectors, primarily from natural gas, but as we have seen, coal, nuclear, and increasing renewables are all playing their part. Our industrial and transport sectors are predominantly supported by oil, while our domestic and industrial heating demands have been increasingly met by natural gas sourced with high levels of flexibility. Today, our energy system meets all our demands at an acceptable price and a level of convenience using multiple supply vectors seamlessly, but unfortunately also with those unacceptable emissions. Let us take this information and put it into a simple price volume graphic as shown here for the UK today. Currently, the UK has about 25,000 kilotons oil equivalent electricity usage, 70,000 kilotons per annum oil consumption, and 45,000 kilotons oil equivalent gas consumption. As we can see, there is a significant price premium by a factor of 3 for electricity, though for oil use in transport, the impact of this premium is reduced once government-imposed excise duties are added, shown here with 5 up to 15p after tax. Demand for gas also varies considerably throughout the year as we heat our homes and offices. This results in a spiky low demand curve, which today is managed through seasonal imports of liquefied gas, but we still pay a low price. The cost of renewable energy has dropped significantly and is now competitive with other energy resources for power, today meeting approximately 40% of the UK power demand. However, as I've already mentioned, only about 7% of total energy, demonstrating how much further renewables have to go to meet our future energy needs. Though, as we will see later, improved efficiencies will certainly reduce the scale of that challenge. As climate change is a global phenomenon, in this first video, let me conclude by looking a little wider, especially as this will be addressed at COP26, which the UK government is hosting with Italy later this year in Glasgow. The UK has set out its goals for this meeting as shown here. Having worked as a volunteer in VSO, let me add another perspective which builds on this chart extracted from the Club of Rome's Come On. The chart plots countries' relative human development index on the x-axis against their ecological or energy footprint, a so-called global hectare per person, a measure of relative consumption impact on the y-axis. The chart shows two groupings, developing nations with low HDI and developed nations with a high energy footprint. It also shows an ideal or sustainable goal for these metrics. Using this chart, one can see that we actually need two sets of future energy strategies, one for developed countries to reduce energy footprint, and the other for to reduce inequality for developing countries. And I will come back to this concept in a later video. This concludes part 1. And if you are still interested, I encourage you to continue with part 2, which will provide a summary of new energy technologies. This is over 2 videos, while parts 3 and 4 will go on to look at a possible transition plan and provide more suggestions for our policy makers. Thank you.